Okay, so next we need to do is to get ourselves ready, set up ready for the free motion. So switch on my machine. So I've got a nice full bobbin in the bottom there. Don't want to start off with an end of one. And I'm going to be outlining in this one, which is designer polyester DS893. And I generally outline either this one or, switching across, this one, which is a little bit softer. Oh, so my machine just woke up. So yeah, either this one, I can see it better there, or this one. But I want a bit of a bolder colour, so I'm going to go for this one today. So we want that, and then we want the free motion feet. I've done a video about this before, but there's lots of different ones that you can use. Can't remember, there's another one somewhere. See it? But anyway, there's this one's what's called a darning foot in faff. My machine's a faff Performance 5, or you can get metal ones, open-toed ones, and I should have an embroidery foot somewhere, but I like this one because it's plastic so I can see through it, and I've got a closed loop as opposed to a open toe, and I think that holds the fabric better down for me. So that's my foot of choice. So you have to have a look and see how your machine goes on, but on mine there's like a little hole at the back. You slide that through it and lock it on. Every now and again, if you're doing free motion work for a while, just check that that's still on. So just because they loosen and then this foot suddenly comes off, and you know, causes chaos. So I'm just going to thread my machine up. I do a lot of thread changes. You do get quicker at it. Something that I do on thread changes is, you can't see from the angle I've got here, but I'm just threading it up and I hold it tight at when I'm going through all these loops and nooks and crannies. I hold it at the bobbin, actually on it, and then I'm providing a bit of tension, and it just makes sure that then it goes through the tensioners. You can't see, just the tensioner wheels above where my hand is at the minute. And I do have an automatic assisted needle threader, which is good because I'm going slightly long-sighted and I don't think I could see it anymore, and I've got long fingernails, so they are lovely to have a needle threader. So set up your machine. So depends on your machine. So of different machines I've had, some of them there was you've got to basically move the feed dogs down, so that's these things here, because otherwise they're going to be trying to push the fabric in that direction, and you want to be able to move in any direction. So I've had ones where there was like a manual switch that you pushed across and then it dropped it down. I've had machines where you had like a plastic cover and you pop that over and then it covered them. And other machines, this one's electronic and I just press the free motion button, which is very easy, and it sorts it all out automatically for me. And then I'm going to turn my machine tension down a little. So for some reason mine automatically comes on at 4.6 on mine. I don't actually know what it goes up to in reference as a scale, but even it says it comes on at 4.6, and even it says that's a bit tight because it's got like a recommended setting, but I can't seem to manage to change it. So presumably at some point I've set it wrong and then it stays on that. So I drop mine from the 4 it comes on to 3, which is just that touch looser. Other points to consider: needles. I'll try and do one, but in case of separate videos, but in case I forget, I'll just waffle now. So this is not a standard machine needle. It's an embroidery needle, and they have a slightly wider eye, if I can find any. So you can see it. Like, so that's a normal one, and I don't suppose even if I find one. So basically in fact this isn't a normal one, this is a what else have we got here? That's a jersey needle, so it's got a blunt point. But basically this eye on an embroidery needle is a little bit bigger, so I find they're helpful because it makes it easier for the thread to draw through, which is what you want. You don't want anything holding it up. So You don't need the tops. The top stitching ones are the ones with the biggest eye, and they're for generally thicker threads. But an embroidery needle, you don't have to have anything fancy. Just I think I bought a big box of 50 a few years ago, and I just work my way through them every now and again. So we're all set up in whatever manner your machine needs to be set up in. And they do say in the manuals, and if you haven't got the manual anymore, you can look up online now, which is great. I get quite a few people asking me how to do it, and I just look up their manual on the machine, so which presumably they could have done themselves, but right. Oh. So points to consider. I'm wearing a massive jumper because it's really cold today, so this isn't ideal. So because you've got lots of loose pieces, if you are wearing loose clothing like me, try and roll your sleeves and tuck them out, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to just knock them all flying. Right, so this is my least favourite bit. Oh, what else we got? I hate the outlining. So I generally give myself, I do it in stages, and I give myself treats to look forward to when it's done. I love doing the colours, but just the outline, it just seems to take forever. So, and it looks rubbish while you're doing it. So just take heart and don't do it all in one time. So things before you start. Stabilizer. So under here, let me show you so you can actually see. Under here I've got a piece of stabilizer, and it's just slightly bigger than the whole of the background. It's easier if you can have one piece, and you don't want it massively bigger or anything, because otherwise it's going to you risk hitting the inside of the machine arm, and then that might make your stitching jump a little. So just the size it needs to be. I'm using a tearaway one here, so it's kind of papery, and that's the one I put in all the kits. Again, I think I've mentioned that in an earlier video. And the other thing to have on hand is your small pair of sharp scissors, because we're going to be wanting to work on snipping some threads as we go. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I think it should be okay. And I did do my nails, so since they're going to be a bit in shade, so I've got a nice sparkly purple on. Okay, right, so first off, we're just going to aim, and you're aiming to be about 1 millimetre away from it. We'll just stop with the needle down, and if your sewing machine has a setting to put to when it stops, stop with the needle down, then I would set that up if you can. If not, then just try and finish with your needle down each time you have a pause, and then you won't get a jump later on. So we're just going to do a couple of stitches. Like so, just so that we've gone far enough along to cut that thread, and be very careful as you pull it off, because she says trying to pick it out. Those loose threads are absolutely terrible at catching up on a little bit of it and knocking it off for you. I know you could pin it, but I find when you put the pins on, it's like it deliberately makes it so that later on you're going to get a crease and things, whereas if it's not pinned down and it starts to shift a little bit, you can kind of go with it. So that's, if you want to put pins down, that's fine. If you want to put a dab of glue down, that's fine. But if you don't want to bother, that's how I do it. So I'll talk you through a little bit of it, and then I'll just get going. So we're going nice and slowly. And where I've got here, you can see I've just I'm just going to put my fingernail. Oh, you could use a pair of scissors. So, and then it just helped it stay in the right place to the last minute. So I'm trying to stitch really close to this edge. Hopefully not get my hands too much in the way. And I can't do that really fast. I've got to continually pause and check what I'm doing. I just want to try and keep that in as long as possible. That's it. And then just check that is, where we were hiding his feet. Let's just check that that's still in place. So you can just keep on looking forward, checking nothing's moved. And as long as I've got my, I know people worry about it, but I've got my fingers very close to the needle here, but as long as you keep your fingers down, it's generally pretty safe. Where people, I think, tend to accidentally sew with the fingers is where they start lifting their finger up and then in, and then obviously you can get it sewn over. But if I'm holding down and I'm not under this bit here, then I can't get sewn on. So the only times I've ever caught my fingers with a needle is generally, it's usually something to do with the side of the needle, side, you know, some of this bit of machinery, and it's where I was just moving my hand out of the way and caught it. So hands down low. So I've just moved now onto this grass. And you do just have to take your time. And here, I've just missed when I was sewing that around here. There's a couple of threads which I was just over, so I've gone on to the background and not caught that down, which is why we're going to go around it twice. So I don't worry about it because I cut a lot of it down, and next time I'll be able to, it won't be shifting around nearly so much because I've caught most of it down. So I think we're going to go, so you just basically have to decide where you're going to go next. Trying to not touch stuff to knock it or anything. And then you can very carefully turn things around so you've got a different viewpoint. Try and make sure your bench is as clear as possible. You don't want to be knocking into different things. And then you see I can just smooth it off. I'm going to head off this way now. Try and keep my hands out of the way. And if you feel like you have knocked something, then you can always pause and readjust it if it's a bit that matters. I'm holding that down and it's not from the same leaf. Doesn't really matter, does it? And you can hear from the machine, it's kind of going, I'm going stitch, 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 stitch. I'm not going like, you know, it doesn't need to be that fast. Just concentrate on moving it smoothly. I think actually I won't move that there. Just adjust that flower a little bit. So on here, I'm going to go up this bit, and so there's going to be a tendency for it to want to wander a little bit. So I'm just going to hold it as I go. Move my fingers again. So I'm kind of, my fingers are acting as the pins and keeping everything in place. You can just twirl back. And something I noticed here is this leg. I didn't put quite in the right place, so we're just going to move that. So I'm just going to be working around, sewing down everything, so all the edges. And we're going to go around twice, but to start off with, just try and get everything down. And the only bits, I'll mention it when I do, is the only bits I'm going to leave are these divisions here. So from this fur here, I don't want to put that dark hard line there because I kind of want it to look like it's blending a bit. So I will do the legs, I will, and down here around these bits, and but I won't on these ones. I'm going to leave them loose. Around the face I will go around, but not, again, not these, the change of fur colour here. So I'm going to do that with a closer matching thread. But everything else I'm going to be using this dark outlining. So it's a case of just with the threads, just seeing if you want to make a point of it being different, so it's got a sketchy look, or do you want it to blend in a little bit. So most of the times I want the sketchy look, but occasionally I don't. So yeah, so I'm going to be just working around. I'll probably speed up the next section of the video because you don't need to watch me do it for however long it takes. Right, I don't know if you could just see what happened then, but I noticed that it just very slightly frayed. So I like using this polyester thread, but I mean, because it's very cheap, you can get it for like 1,000 meters for like £2.50 a reel, and it is a little fluffy, and I think that helps it set so that when you look at it, now I've got the two lines together, they kind of blur a little bit because they're slightly fluffy, as opposed to if I was using something like either the confetti, because I could have used like the confetti I've got in a similar brown, but it's much smoother, and it just sits very, I'm a thread here, and I don't think it's as nice. But on the downside, this one does occasionally just kind of snap. So you just rethread it and carry on, really. And if you can spot it doing it before it's actually snapped, then you can make a bit of a neater job, because I've got a little bit of a you can't really see it here. I'll show you when it's come out, but I've got a little bit of a fluffy bit there, which would have been nicer to avoid, but by the time we've got some other colour threads on, you're not going to notice it. So that's nearly all this grass bit done now, so I'm just going to work my way back round. So sometimes I go around an area and then just move on to the second, and other times I go around and immediately do the second lap. So when you do the second bit, so I've already sewn over this one, really try and make sure you get everything this time. So if you missed it the first time, really concentrate on trying to get it that second time. Otherwise, just try and sew on top of the line you've already done. Okay, so I think I'm going to go up and do his leg next. Okay, so I shall carry on. Something else to watch for is that as you sew over where there's this patchwork seams underneath, it makes it a little bit harder for the thread's got to go, the needle's got to go all the way down through all these different layers and be, you know, caught by the bobbin thread underneath and come back up again. And what you can notice is that sometimes it doesn't actually catch, and then you get loops up and things like that, so which can encourage your thread to snap. So as you go across these seams, it's worthwhile just slowing down a little bit more, just to give you the thread chance to do its business. So don't hurtle through all the seams. And to the same thing, make sure that you are changing your needle. You know, it shouldn't be an annual event, or you shouldn't really be waiting until you snap them. Every now and again, I'm sure they say like every new project. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but certainly once a month I'm changing the needle on the machine to keep it sharp, because you don't want it to be trying to force its way through the fabric, because the slower it does it, the less chance it's got of catching that stitch. So just something to think about. And I do move the fabrics around a little bit, not a huge amount, but just make sure the idea is sitting nice. And then off we go again. I suppose in general it's easier to sew towards yourself than it is going away. Sometimes it's just convenient to go away from yourself, but it's a lot easier to see where you're going than where you've been. So I've decided I wasn't going to sew down this line, so we're just going to go very carefully under the jaw. And then we can head down this side, because I do want a nice clear outline for him here. thought that was going to snap. I thought, you know, it's just going to go. It always seems to want to go at just the point where you really wouldn't want it to snap. No. Just rethread. I'm being very careful here not to touch anything. Don't want to knock any of the pieces, just stick that over there. Oh, they're going to snap. Had a little kick back then. I think it. Oh, I'm not sure what happened then. It seemed to have a little wibble, didn't it? Right, well, so there, my machine just suddenly jerked. I think it got something happened underneath where the tension was suddenly too tight. So I'll just snip that short. So can we see any reason why I did that? Looks alright. Just wanted to do it in an awkward place, I think. So we'll have another go. I think it's just that. Oh no, definitely my bobbin. Ah! Okay, so I'm going to just reseat my bobbin because I think something at the bottom's gone wrong. So I'll just cut that off. Yeah, definitely not very happy, is it? Can you hear? So I'm just going to very carefully move it all off and see what has gone along on the bottom here. It's definitely got some fluff going on, isn't it? Yeah, it seems to have just nicely come up, could do with taking the stitch plate off and getting whatever this fluff is out of there. Alright now. So we'll just reseat my bobbin. Jackie, are you thinking it's time for your walk, are you? And dog Jack just came in and gave me a big yawn. She does when he wants to go for a walk. So can we be inside? It's so boring. He's now looking at me with his head on the side where he's puzzling me out. Okay, let's have another go at that, see if we do a bit better. Yeah, I think it just got caught on a seam and then got itself in a bit of a wobble. But these things do happen. Jack's definitely like, you've been doing this too long, you should go for a walk. So I'm going to just finish his head and then I'm going to take a break for a bit. He's got his nose under my elbow, so my sewing accuracy is going to go well down. He likes to nudge me to remind me he's still there. Right, so it's a bit of a mess there, but it's alright, it's not like it's on its face or anything. Oh no, yeah, it is on its face. So we'll just neaten that up. But you won't be able to tell later. This is why I don't like this bit. It always looks naff and you think, oh golly, everyone's going to see that and it's going to be terrible. But once we've got all the other colours on, you won't be able to see. There must be a big massive knot underneath that. So on this, I'm not going around this bit of the face, but I have decided to go on the ears because that's kind of the fold of the ears, so that feels more like it doesn't matter, that's more defined. So we're going to go over this seam, which it didn't like before, on the other side. But it behaved much better this time, so let's have a look. We just need to whiz around this last face again. Now I may have a bit of a wobble. What do it looks like on the other side? Oh yeah, yeah, it's a bit of a knot on the back there. small bird's nest on the back. Right, I'm just going to kind of plough my way through it and hope it goes okay. Yay! Yeah, so I'll need to look into that later. But luckily no one's going to see it because it's going to be sandwiched in the quilt and no one will know that it's a big messy knot on the back there. Right, and there she is. So she's just going to have these. I'll do a thread change, but I won't do that till later. So just got to work around all the flowers now, but I am going to take a break.